Thank you for joining me today on Good News with Twanda Black, where we're discovering some of the most inspiring trials to triumph stories and empowerment moments. Call up a friend and let them know it's time for some good news. Hello, family, and welcome to Good News with Twanda Black. I am your host, and we talk with folks from all walks of life about their good news. Because ultimately, when your brothers and sisters are doing good, you're doing good, all right? All right, now sit back, relax, and enjoy this next guest. Joining me today is Rhonda Bennett. She is author. Check out the title. Momma, I Want to Be Light-Skinned. My Journey to Acceptance. Let me tell you, Rhonda, this book brought back so many memories for me, as you can see.
Wow.
Yes, ma'am. So you know I went through some of the same stuff.
Yeah.
Excellent book, though. Good read, and it's a good conversation piece for when you're with your family, your friends, whoever. I think you should be able to have those discussions. But tell us about yourself first. You talk about in the book your childhood and how the things that transpired there, of course, journeyed with you into your adulthood.
Yeah, they do. And so I'm born and raised in Tuskegee, Alabama. I was a very active child up until the age of 9. Before 9, I was always involved in different things, in sports. I was a tomboy. I enjoyed making friends and just being outside, riding my bike, playing kickball with the neighborhood friends. And, one day as I was sitting at my grandmother's house, she and I were just talking, watching, I want to say In the Heat of the Night or whatever. Something was on the television and we were watching it. And she just, happened to look down at me and she was like, Rhonda, you need to marry somebody white or Hayella if you want your children to have a chance in this world, because you won't. And I was called names in school. I was used to that. Mm-hmm. But hearing it from someone who I trusted, who I spent a lot of time with, who knew loved me, mm-hmm. But to hear her say that, it made me feel like, okay, well, maybe what the kids are saying at school is right. I'm ugly. I'm not good enough. I'm too dark, and that just started me on that downward spiral. So,
and it made me think about, of course, what I went through as a little chocolate girl. Same thing. You're ugly. You're this, you're that. You're black. Of course, I was black. Yeah. And my last name is Black, so that was a whole nother teasing point. But I remember my 5-year-old. So my husband at the time, my younger kid at the time, we're all dark and he's light. Mm-hmm. And the kids at school told him he was white. Wow. So he came home and said, Mama, why am I white and y'all are black? It's like, wow. What? And so I picked up this book, and I can't remember the name of it, but it was an awesome book. And it was for children about the complexions of our race, mm-hmm. of our, of who we are, of our ethnicity, that we come in all these different shades and colors. Mm-hmm. And I remember having to explain to him, I said, look at your grandmother. You're the same complexion as your grandmother, and then your uncles. And then we just went, because we have a huge family, and we got mm-hmm. all these different complexions. And so just explaining that to him was some kind of way, all of the teasing that he got, and this is from a boy, it got in his head. And so when he got to middle school, he was a little freaked out by people looking at him and asking him, what are you?
Right.
Because he has curly hair. He's light. Are you Puerto Rican? Are you this? He was like, I'm black. It's like, no, you're not. So you get it from little kids in school, but then when you get it from the people that you trust the most, your parents, your grandparents, the people in your life that you trust,
it takes it to another level. It brings about a different awareness because I was aware, but then to hear it from her, it just opened up the door to everything else. So I was noticing everything else now and felt as though, okay, yep, this little thing that happened is true. What my grandmother said was true, and nothing else would happen. It's like my perspective was just totally off now because of that one little phrase, and everything was, pretty much in agreement with what she said about me. So it's crazy that conversation is still going on. And when I first wrote this book, first of all, it didn't even start off as a book. I was on a quest to be free. I was having some internal thoughts that, had me thinking suicidal, crazy stuff. I just had my second son, and I was so excited that neither one of my children looked like me.
Wow.
First, I was excited that they were
boys. When you said that in the book, my mouth fell open. I was like, "Oh my God!"
Yeah, I was excited. They came out. They were extremely bright, and I was happy. That was it. Wow. And then I started to think, what is really wrong with me? And after my second son, I was in the shower and I just began to weep because I knew there was something wrong. I did not like myself. And God just began to flood my mind with all the memories, all the things that I had suppressed over the years because, these things happen, but I pressed them down into my subconscious. And I was living out everything that I'd heard that was said to me or what have you, unknowingly. And it was just, I was living my life based on a lie that was told to me. And I needed to be free because I was tormented in my thoughts. I was talking myself out of so many things. My mind was just, I was overwhelmed with, thoughts of inadequacy, that I'm not enough. So that's how this book started. It started as a journal. It started for me just pouring out what was going on in my mind onto pages.
Did you talk to your mom about this? Did you ever,
No.
I know your mom knew a little bit, but I know you didn't really. Why not?
So, because I love my mom, but my mom, she was always, not always, that's the wrong word. So the things that my grandmother said to me, she had also said to my mom before.
Oh, wow.
So that's why she contributed to some of the things, like you can't play outside too long because you're going to get dark. Or we're going to use this soap or whatever to help lighten your skin. So she always told me I was beautiful. However, I couldn't go outside. I couldn't play out long. My dad wanted me to cut the grass and she was like, nope, you can't do that. If you're going to be out there, only 30 minutes and coming back in the house.
Those undertones.
So she contributed. All of that contributed to it. So I didn't feel like I could go to her and talk to her about it. And so I didn't. I just bottled all of that in. So, and there was no one I could talk to about it. It was just me internalizing all of those thoughts, all of those words, all of the taunting from school, just all of that. And
talk about your college years. Talk about your college years. I thought that was really interesting time for you.
Yeah, my college years were amazing. I decided to leave Tuskegee and venture, a couple of hours north. And it was a whole new world. It was literally a different world, which was my favorite show growing up. But it was a different world. There were so many, beautiful women, all hues, color, loving themselves. And I did not hear about, you're too dark, you're too this. No, it was gorgeous. Look at your dimples. I love your skin. It was stuff that I wasn't used to, and it just made me, start to see myself in a different light. But there was a lot of work that had to go into accepting this newness. People would tell me that I was pretty and they'd be like, oh, okay.
So, but you really didn't believe it.
Did not believe it. Yeah. I did not. And people until this day were like, really? I didn't know you dealt with self-esteem issues, because I had a representative. I learned how to be someone else different, how to be confident in front of others, and internally dying inside, waiting to get back home because, oh my God, I don't know who I am.
Right.
And, it was a lot of work, but I worked it out. I fooled a lot of people for a long time.
Weren't you a queen?
Yes, I was the queen of my college, Miss Stillman. Yes.
Is that amazing or what?
Listen.
But you still didn't believe.
No.
The narrative.
I didn't. But the thing is, I knew that this was what I was supposed to do. So many things happened during that time on my quest to be queen. And I heard God clearly say, this is your time. And so that's when I was like, okay, I'm just going to keep going. I'm going to keep going. And I won. And so, yeah, that was a start. It was, but I still, with all of that training in my head, it still wasn't enough validation for me because I
Let me
was
tell you
looking in the wrong
something.
place.
When I met you and I bought the book, I never thought I would be reading. I never thought your story would be this. You know, I just didn't. Just in meeting you, and I just met you, a few weeks back.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad that you got past, that
Yes.
you healed and restored and all that good stuff. So once in the shower, after you saw your babies, which that had my mouth on the floor, because here's a funny story. When I had my first baby, really light, I mean, light, and we were in the doctor's office, and I remember this lady asking me, was I his nanny?
I have
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I was like, what? I still remember that like it was yesterday.
That happened to me in the grocery store.
Really?
Yep,
Oh
with my
my
first.
God.
I
Yeah.
went along with it. I was like, no, I'm just watching him for the day. I just laughed it off and kept going. So
Yeah. Some interesting things happened with that one. But anyway, so when you got into the shower and those tears, and I'm sure you were probably just wailing at your thoughts of the audacity of how you were feeling.
Yeah.
What were your next steps? How did you move from those tears of reality that in reality, I still don't think I'm good enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had to start the process of exchanging everything that I learned that was instilled in me with the things that God said about me. And it took some time, it took practice. It was being intentional about my thoughts every day, every moment of the day.
And what comes out of your mouth?
And what comes out of your mouth, you manifest that. And so, I had to be intentional about the things that I was saying. And, it became a daily practice to where I was starting to believe that, yes, I am fearfully and wonderfully made. I was made on purpose. God was so intentional about everything that he formed with me, from my skin color to my hair texture. Everything was intentional. And I had to learn to love that and embrace that and validate myself. I think the reason why I struggled with it for so many years was because I was looking for external validation.
Yeah.
And the only validation I needed was right here.
Right.
It was right here with me. So, and it was the process. It was.
Wow. And I want folks to know, don't think it's just women that go through this. Men go through this as well. I was talking to two very famous artists, performing artists, and we were talking about colorism. We were talking about this very thing. Wow. And they were talking about how bad they had it when they were young and going through college because they were dark skinned.
Wow.
And we made jokes and we talked about it, and then we all hugged it out. and because we were like, well, now we're okay. We're in, but we went through so much to get here. But again, it's exactly what you said, that it's an inside job.
It's an inside job.
And it is not validation from the world, because the world still don't like us because we Black. But right. when your own people don't like you because you dark skinned, oh, you good looking for a dark skinned girl. And one of the guys told me, say, yeah, they used to tell me, you fine and good looking and everything, but you dark skinned, you too Black, that kind of stuff. He said he had to work through that. And I mean, he's a very famous artist right now, but he had to work through that color issue.
Yeah. And that was another reason why I felt I needed to tell my story, because there are so many people so many women and men who are in their 30s and 40s and 50s who are still working through things that happened when they were 9, 10, 11, 10 years old. And I want it to stop now. I want young girls, young boys to know that they are perfect, just the way that they are, regardless of their skin complexion, their color, whatever. They're perfect just the way they are. And I think if we start having these conversations early and instilling in our babies early about how awesome they are, all of them,
Yeah.
every part of
Yeah.
them, then they won't have to be 30, 40, 50 years old having an identity crisis
No.
because they'll know who they are early on. So,
That
and
was my next question, was to talk to the parents,
yeah,
because parents that have gone through it are now passing down again. They might be telling you you're beautiful, but they're doing the undertone stuff. Well, don't stay out in the sun too long. You need to use some skin whitening, or you're ashy, or you're this, or you're that. And so, parents,
yeah,
parents, we need to do better with our children.
we do. We need to do better. But the problem with that is if we don't learn to accept ourselves, we'll never be able to teach our
That's
children how
right.
to accept
That's
themselves.
right.
We'll always put that undertone on them. So
Yeah. Yeah. It's an interesting thing, and it's interesting that in 2023 we're still going through this
we're still having this conversation.
within our own family, within our own ethnicity, within our own Black people.
Yep.
We're still having the conversation about skin complexion.
Yep. We are.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I go to different schools, elementary, middle, and high schools, and I talk to the students there. And even now, they're still having these questions. They still have issues among their peers of being in competition with the lighter skinned girls.
Yes.
Like, why is this still an issue?
Yeah.
Why is it still an issue today? And they're thankful that I'm able to talk about it now, because it gives them permission to also talk about it and work through these issues that they're having as well. And my prayer is that they can stop it right now and move forward in their life, being the great, awesome girls and boys and women and men that they are.
And the other side of that is that the kids that get bullied because they are light. We had my husband's daughter for a while. She's very, very light complexion, and those girls terrorized her in school.
Yeah,
terrorized her. She didn't even know she was cute, but they terrorized her in school, and to the point where we had to intervene, because there was some pushing and shoving and the name calling.
wow.
And the other thing was, she was afraid to use the bathroom.
Wow.
So yeah, we had to intervene, because that girl would hit the steps when she got home. She's like, what's happening? What's happening? I can't go to the restroom in school. Excuse me?
Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's two sides to it. However, again, parents, what we say to our children will affect them for their entire lives.
Yes, it will.
Yeah.
Yes,
It really does. Tell folks how they can find your book. It's a beautiful book. I read it in probably an hour. I'm a speed reader, but anyway, it was easy reading. I think any kid, any child in your life who is having issues or having some issues with how they feel about themselves,
yeah,
it's definitely a great book.
It is. It's definitely for all ages. I wrote it in such a way that a child can understand
Yeah.
everything that I'm talking about, and I wanted to make it more of a conversation piece. So as you're reading it, it's like you're sitting across the table from me, and I'm just telling you my story.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's how it translates into being just an easy read. But yeah, you can find my book, an autograph copy you can get at order.darkskindiva.com. It's also on Amazon, so just type in Mama I Want to Be Light Skin, and you can purchase it off Amazon as well.
Yes. Awesome book. Thank you so much for taking out time to talk with us and to share your journey with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I so appreciate you for having me on today. This has been a pleasure.
My
I
pleasure.
hope to do it again soon.
All right. Ah, yes. Wasn't it a good conversation? We could have talked forever. If you want to be a guest on the show, you can email me at Twanda Black at thepgnetwork.org or good news at thepgnetwork.org. You can watch the show via PGN TV on all digital streaming apps or visit us at pgntv.org. We'll see you next time with some good news. God bless you.